these classified ads in the back of these old Soldier of Fortunes.
Should we call a couple?
Can we?
I would love to. Are there any good ones?
Some of these we're going to have to write to them. Ex-Army vet, Vietnam, 65 to 66, 2.7 cab, 31 years old, seeks job as merc or security. Combat experience.
It's merc or security.
Good physical condition, will travel worldwide, you pay expenses. Gives his name, Melvina, Oaklawn, Illinois.
All right.
This is from February of 1979. And Josiah, you've got another one there, I think from another time in 1979, August maybe. We had a young man bring down
April
an impressive collection of these. And what's he getting for these? $5, right? Or $10?
5 for the ones not inside the plastic, and
for
then
these
the
ones,
fancy pants plastic ones, $10.99.
Yeah, well worth it. Literally, just for it's a time capsule.
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to see, literally like source material for FUD lore. Oh my God! Like, I mean, right there.
Look at him.
Just there you go.
Doing
There's probably a really good guy, but there's a FUD. You got a good ad over there?
Ninja Combat
I'm
System.
not going to read
training
it out.
manual.
I'm not going to read it out loud, but
But Joe, there's a
The
Ninja Combat
for
System
$6
training
whole
manual
dollars.
for $6.
And then
Come
there
on,
was
man.
the magnificent brass paperweight for $6 as well.
Buying that magazine just for that advertising.
4 times magnified night scope for under $200.
I love it.
I'm trying to find. There's a couple good ones. Combat vet, ex-Marine, expert quals, degreed with honors, 8-year licensed investigator, passport, seeks special employment. Fairhope, Alabama, 36532. Merc for hire, 2 years nom, 6 months. South American, indoctrinated in guerrilla warfare, survival. Damn good with pistol, knife, garrote, rifle. No job too small or large. Call Harry Johnson, 1-800-532-4632.
This just tells you how to convert to selective fire.
I mean, it was
For
nine-
five,
it was 1979. Yeah,
$5, yeah.
hell yeah, dude. So it's like we'll show you how to do it, and then we'll give you a form, whatever it was, a form 1. You send that in with your $200, right? You're good to go.
That's dope.
Get yours today, people.
4632. What were we doing last week?
Nothing.
Pittsburgh, South Carolina. Oh.
That's what they want you to stay on longer. Stay on longer.
No mercenary today.
So we've got some of these. We've got what? There's a handful of these, 20, 30 of these maybe.
Yeah,
There's a bunch of them.
20, 30.
There's a bunch of them. We got a whole magazine rack in the shop for your
We do.
perusing pleasure.
The firing pin bodega.
Oh my gosh. So yeah, we've been off for a couple
2 weeks.
2 weeks
Yeah.
now here. Yeah. We were sick last week,
Sick last week.
just all collectively as a unit.
I wasn't sick, man. I was on my way in here. You guys were like,
we were
no,
like, yeah, we're kind of
not gonna do it.
being out, and
It's all right.
yeah, it happens, you know.
Sometimes.
But we have some amazing clips that have been posted almost every day, hopefully to hold you over, from our new guy Fredo. And oh my gosh,
They're
some of those
pretty
clips
sweet.
are amazing. Matt Wolf, man, I know you're watching. He's
Fun.
funny.
Yeah,
He's funny.
funny
guy.
Yeah. What, funny like a clown?
Like funny haha or funny weird?
Funny haha.
Yeah.
No, he's a good. He's one of us. Gabagoo.
You know who's not funny? On Preservation Inc.
Nothing funny about that stuff.
Nothing funny
Super
about
serious.
long-term storage of your, in this case, ammunition, firearms, or other valuables inside of the microenvironment
Mhm.
created by the vapor corrosion inhibitor technology.
You can
in this
just
high-speed bag.
you can hear the quality of that bag though.
It's
Like,
so thick, man.
you're not
the
ripping
material is
like you could bury that
very stout.
on its own underground. I don't know why you would do that, but you could. You
Ben,
know,
Ben proof.
Oh, I can think
Yeah,
of reasons why you might want to do that.
if it's time to bury it, it's already time to dig them up. That's
I've heard that before.
But yeah, API, super local, like right here in Fairport, and awesome people, very 2A friendly, very
100%.
proud sponsors of this stream
Yes,
somehow
they
for years.
Still,
yeah, our relationship with them
tolerating us.
has been
Yeah.
very, very excellent. So thank you guys. Also, another longtime sponsor, Beyond Driven Fitness and Performance, guys. You know them, you love them. Best gym in Genesee County, Western New York. Dare I say the state? We can just speak it into existence.
Especially for like a local, you know what I mean? Like, throw out all the corporate whatevers because they don't matter.
Right.
For a, mom and pop local shop, they blow it away.
They're amazing.
They're amazing. Yeah.
I've been in there several times a week for the past few weeks. I've been like really getting back in there on like a regular basis. And I ran into Casey a couple times. I saw Matt over there doing his thing. And yeah, it's just a great place, guys, for any classes that you want to do as far as like their Beyond Boxing program, or they have their what do they call the pit down in the? I'm scared to go down there. I can't go to the drip pit. No, the drip pit. I'm scared.
You're scared to go down there?
They're too intense down there for me. Just stay in the weight room where it's.
I'm sure they're very welcoming and friendly.
No, absolutely. It's
just sweaty, but
hey, that's what you're there for.
Humidity you go down there, humidity rises.
Arms
Gotta make it drip.
It's been a while. Good stuff. Good stuff. I should probably get on here. I don't know if you've got anything cool to talk about before we get into any comments or. Where do you sign up for the book club?
So something
on
cool
down.
On the Discord today.
Who is that? Ban that person.
Something cool on the Discord today. One of the guys was asking about the tactical games. It's going to be at the Ben Franklin Range facility in Pennsylvania in May. And
That sounds cool.
Yeah, it's pretty close to here. I think it's only like 2.5 hour drive or something like that.
They're not doing it at the Gauntlet.
They're not doing it at Shooter's Gauntlet this year. I thought that it was going to be back there again, but they decided to switch to a different range complex, one that I've heard of, I've never been to. But it sounds pretty cool, and I'm excited. They're having one at Ridgeline again, 3 to 4 August, and I plan to go there. I'm actually going to take April.
Nice.
Yeah, she's going to come and like spectate because it's free for spectators to come and watch and stuff like that. So that's going to be a pretty rad trip. Stoked about that. And
that was a super cool vibe when I went to the tactical games in Pennsylvania to watch you.
Yeah.
Because like it's a competition, things are happening, but it's just you go to a gun show and that's like a 2A event of sorts, obviously, right? And you're interacting with your local community, right, of other Second Amendment lovers, right? And the skirmishes or even the games are the same kind of vibe. It's like, okay, these are people that are really into this, obviously, because they're competing, and I'm surrounded by other people. Like, if you're there, you're going to be pro-gun, right? And it's just a cool day to just go check it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of people there from all different like backgrounds, right? Like they're older people go and compete. They have divisions in masters like 50 plus. I've seen people there competing up into like their 70s, which is pretty awesome. Tulsi Gabbard actually just competed in one in like Arizona, and she took second place in the women's whichever division. I think women's intermediate. So she is like going to be at nationals, and she's like all excited about it now. So yeah, but that's what happens, right? Is a lot of people go and they'll do their first event, and then eventually like kind of right away, they get excited about it, and then they're going to like one a year or maybe more, and it's a cool community.
Yeah.
I've been to a tactical games event as well, the one in Pennsylvania.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, that was my first time out there, and we got to experience the first time kind of together, which was cool.
Tyler just texted us saying that his entire family just reached out to him, like, checking in on him, like, you're on the live stream. Like, are you okay? Like, I'm just sick.
I did put it in the description.
I see that. Yeah. I can only see like 2 comments. It says we have 13.
Yeah, there's more.
I can't see them, so you're gonna have to read them out.
So Landon asked, any new Smith & Wesson revolvers in stock?
Yeah, we have lots. I guess if you're looking for something specific, Landon, because we've got from the venerable 9mm all the way up to the even more venerable 350 Legends.
He said revolvers, Joe.
Yes, I know.
But 9mm.
I know. Yeah, you can do it.
In a
9
revolver.
and a revolver.
But there's no clip.
You're right. There's a moon clip. It's
There are
your
clips.
imagination.
Through the power of friendship.
Through the power of Christ.
Yeah.
Yes.
Maybe the real.
Yes,
ones.
you heard me correctly. There are some
Well,
9mm ones, 38 special, 357. So many for me to list off.
Oh, that's
So
19-9.
the 19-9 is the you got the what's called an eye comp. So they moved the front sight to be a slightly rear sight, and they just ported the front section of it. So if you want all ass and no gas, that's the one for you. I like it a lot. It's my favorite. The Governor is another classic one. The 410, 45 long Colt, and 45 ACP. Yes, the Tyrannus Maximus himself. I think, 9mm, 357. There's just so many to list off. It's just a matter of calling and asking.
And it sucks because our display only holds like a third of what we have in stock right
I'd
now.
have to
So
say,
like,
for secret menu items, the Smith & Wesson revolvers, we've got it pretty much down locked. If you don't see it in the case,
Yeah.
we probably have it because it's like a special.
Same with Glock.
Oh my God. The new Glock 25. That's not new to Glock, but new to the United States, which is a Glock 19 chambered for 380. We have a bunch of those in stock. So
have they just never sold that over here because like nobody cared?
They couldn't.
It was
import
ITAR.
because of-
yeah,
Yeah, it was,
Gotcha. So they're just making them over here.
Yep.
And that's cool. Yeah.
Talos doing it. So Glock said it's okay so long Talo did the Domina Patri.
I mean, it's
So-
got to be a Glock 19 in every way other than the barrel, right?
The
And
barrel and the magazine.
Sorry, yeah.
But
Yeah.
so it's a blowback design.
So it's not a short recoil.
Correct. So if you it looks kind of goofy because the barrel almost looks like there's a chunk missing out of it, so that slide can kick it without.
Because the barrel's
unlocking.
not tilting.
Correct. Yeah. It's
The
a
barrel's
direct
kinda fixed.
blowback design. So for someone that might be thinking, 380 lighter on the slide, it's actually heavier because of it being blowback. You have to absorb. So you might find the resistance of the slide tension to be a little bit shocking. But for someone
It's like
that
a Glock point, high Glock.
a Glockenspiel, actually, yes.
Glockenspiel.
Yes. 28 and the 25 are the newest the Glock lineup to the United States that are for the 380. So if you're looking for something different, that is something different. And then there's the 49, which is also a
Yeah. But if
It's,
you
it's
want
for a
to,
collector, right? That's the
that's
the
it.
market.
That's it.
Who's
You're
buying those?
you're buying that solely to
You
be
gotta,
like
you gotta
I have
complete
that.
every. You gotta check the number
I
off.
gotta
have
catch
to
them
have
all.
it.
Yeah, you gotta catch them
Yeah.
all.
I don't know, man. I honestly I could see an argument except for the racking of the slide part, I guess, because if you're in the market for a 380, right?
Sure.
Chances are you're maybe recoil sensitive, or maybe you're new to handguns and you think you might be
Probably
recoil
the
sensitive.
smoothest shooting 380 out there.
That's what I was thinking
Because of
is
how-
in terms of how big it is relative to the cartridge
Mm-hmm.
and how stiff the recoil spring is. It's probably pretty easy to shoot well.
Have you tried a Yeet Cannon 380?
Yeah, sideways. Speaking of you,
The only way that you can
if you guys want
respect
your
yourself.
if you want your high point dollar bill one,
Dollar bills, y'all.
There is one in there, isn't
we
there?
have a couple. Yeah,
We got a few
couple 2-3.
because Kevin wanted one.
Kevin just said that.
Gotta go fast.
I mean,
I convinced him to
I get it.
No, I know.
more or less. Should I get it? And I said yes, and that was all he needed.
100%.
Should we talk about our little thing with Kevin and Matt?
As long as Matt's
Yeah,
cool.
I think we should. So we teased this a little while ago. We have a TFP shooting team.
Yeah.
So Pat, you're also on it. I don't know if you knew that.
I did know
So,
that.
yeah.
I'll be out there shooting this weekend, in fact. I'll be out there representing the shooting team, kind of.
So we want to obviously, number one, it's good for us. I'll admit, obviously, it's marketing. It helps
Exposure.
Yeah, but more importantly, truly, we want to help grow shooting sports
Yes.
among any discipline.
Yes.
Obviously, we were talking about this before the stream. A bunch of us, any of these supplemental uses, I'll call them, or like extracurricular uses of firearms ownership. That includes like defensive gun uses, like you defending your family's life with your firearm is just an added bonus of why we are allowed to own firearms.
Right.
And
like
the
why
reason
it's
we are allowed to own
actually-
firearms is to prevent a tyrannical government and for us to keep that. It's like the final check and balance of our society and governmental relationship contract that we have with each
Correct.
other, right? So I think that's become lost on a lot of people. That's not as favorable. It doesn't sell as well, right, anymore. So I think the more strength we can give the sport argument, the better. I don't think it's the only argument, and it's not the true purpose of the Second Amendment as it was founded or as it was, intended for us. But I think the more we can normalize, legitimize in the general public's eyes, and just make sport shooting relevant and popular and interesting, I think the better.
Right.
I think that'll only be for the better of the Second Amendment overall.
Keep
So
pushing it into the mainstream more and more.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you, Kevin, Matt, we wanted to have a team, right? So you guys are on the, the action, I'll call it, side of it. The action pistol, or the
USPSA, tactical games type stuff.
the run and gun
IDPA.
type of stuff.
Right.
We are looking to also sponsor a team of people to do various shotgun, trap shooting, skeet shooting. There's a bunch of events over the summer that we're going to be traveling to. We will be supporting a few charitable events that are focused around trap shooting. And then there are just some fun, competitions that we're going to do. So we're going to have a team of that. And I really want to help promote the youth shooting sports. So it all kind of ties together where, there's guys going pro, so to speak, where, hey, yeah, you're not making a living off of it because you're not, Jerry Michalik, but it's like
Sure.
at some point you're competing, you're starting that journey,
Yeah.
right?
100%.
And so we hope to, show the young people, the youth, that there is, this is something that if you put the time and energy into, you could become an Olympic marksman. You could become a sponsored on the Team Glock, you know what I mean? And you're doing this full time professionally.
That's the thing is like people don't have any concept really of what's out there in the wider like shooting sports arena if they're not involved in it because there's no exposure to it here in New York State and the general gun culture consists of people who are like very casual. And here in New York State I think even more so, because so many people like are urban dwellers, but also because there aren't that many public ranges where you can go there haven't been historically as many schools participating in like youth rifle stuff or like shotgun competitions for students.
That was big like back in the day.
Kind of
but
tapered off,
then it disappeared.
Right.
And
It's coming back.
Post 9/11, it was gone, obviously, right? But now, it's coming back. There's a surprising number. I was just I sent an email out to the New York the Trap Shooting League. I can't remember. I think that's the name of it though. But there's a youth. How there's like Section 5 sports.
Yep.
There's a organization that oversees all of the shotgun shooting sports for New York State, and it's the junior entry or it's the junior chapter of getting into like U.S. Olympic, beyond like Team USA to go to the Olympics and shoot trap for the country. So there are paths. There's scholarship money. They have one. We have one. I know a lot of people have heard about that, but we have a scholarship now for youth involved in any of the disciplines of shooting. So stop in or email us. We can send you. We've had some turned in already. I should have brought the one essay that we got. I thought it was very nice. So yeah, we're just trying to, do our part to promote. I think the more youth we can get involved, we gotta promote it among all the generations, or it's gonna disappear if they don't see the value in it. Which that's our responsibility to teach them
Right.
the value of it.
I think anybody could kind of get involved. I mean, you'd be surprised the diversity of people that you'll see shooting a USPSA match at a local
Mhm.
range if you go and check it out.
Mhm.
There are people from, that are brand new. Like pretty much every time I've gone to a match, I've
Mhm.
seen at least one first timer.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Somebody who is brand new.
And there's, obviously we all have different goals. We all have different mindsets. I'm not going to say I'm not a competitive person, but like I don't have to win. I need to win. But no, I'm just kidding. Like I don't, that's not me where I get like really into it, but that's okay. Like these are amazing training opportunities. Like,
Yeah.
There's no instructor there telling you necessarily what you did wrong, but if you have some self-awareness and you're like, okay, this in my head, this is a good setup. This is a good rig. I'm gonna, I've been going to the range. I'm doing this, and then it's like you were a total soup sandwich. You're like, all right, I need to go to the range more and practice. Like you got your, what's a match? A USPSA match, $30-$40.
I think it's like, $23 or $4 to sign up for
So
the
it's
match
like
itself.
Sure, that's not a $200 class. You didn't get instruction out of it per se, but you still learned a lot.
I don't know if you go, like, the cool thing about USPSA and the same with tactical games is like when you go and you're shooting in a squad with a group of other people who have more experience,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to be able to take specific pieces of what they're doing away
Sure.
and apply it to what you're doing.
Yeah.
Also, if you're paying attention to people that know more than you,
Mm-hmm.
but in general, they're not information hoarders either.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? Like they want to
Right.
provide you with like some help along the way.
Mm-hmm.
And in my experience, I haven't experienced anybody who's been like aggressively
Right.
like trying to help or
A
like over
gatekeeper
the top or like really trying
Yeah.
to nobody's out to embarrass anybody else or make you feel bad because you didn't know something or you know what I mean, whatever.
Kevin just makes you feel bad because you're slow.
Yeah, he's wicked
just-
fast, man. Like everything he does, he's doing it fast. He's shooting fast. He's reloading fast. He's moving real fast. I don't move as fast as him for sure. And I definitely don't shoot as fast. He's wicked aggressive when he shoots, but it's good to watch him because like you're right. It makes you think about like what's my approach?
Yeah.
Is my approach gonna serve me if I want to hit? I think he's a USPSA master. And like that's a goal of
No big
mine,
deal.
right? So it is kind of a big deal. Like you gotta be pretty good.
Dude, the soldier of fortune.
Oh my god!
All right. Well,
My ninja ad.
I'm sorry, I forgot your name. We'll send you $10.
What are you doing?
Well,
Well, you're lucky. I really like these two. That's okay. No, that's okay. This table sucks.
This
Yeah,
thing,
it's
dude, it's
not-
the worst. We've already spilled
so
beverages
much.
here.
Screw you,
before.
Raytheon. Who
off-
made this thing?
Off camera. Brendan, you're next, buddy.
General Electrics.
I think we have all officially spilled.
Oh,
Yeah, man.
Oh,
This thing is the worst.
So every week
Still
I
gonna
do
drink it,
a
though.
little bit of research before these streams. I try to find some current news, some current events, whatever. I was reading through a New York Times article, which is they're always going to be anti-gun, obviously. But I like to keep my thumb on that pulse because I feel like a lot of you aren't gonna pay attention to the New York Times, and I don't blame you for that. But you gotta know what, I hate saying us versus them kind of stuff. Like you gotta know what they're talking about. You gotta know what the people that are anti-gun are saying and repeating.
You have to understand what their argumentation
they're
is. so that-
behind. Yeah, exactly. Their side of the story.
Right.
So they had posted an article about do firearms actually make us safer? And acknowledging that it's very difficult, obviously, to put a firm number on these statistics or where your sources are or whatever. But say there's 30 or 40,000 confirmed defensive gun uses every year. That's on one side of the scale. Does that make the 20-some thousand a year homicides by firearms okay? Like, how do you rationalize those? If you could go poof, which you can't, you could get rid of all the guns. Would that be better? They're postulating than, okay, we have all these guns and yeah, they're used defensively, but like if they weren't there, then all these murders wouldn't happen. And so they linked a study, and I printed it out. It's like a 40-page, Stanford College psychology whatever study from the Bureau of Economic Research somehow. And I thought it was interesting. We're actually somewhat involved, not that we had anything to do with it per se, but one of the metrics that they used or data points that they used were shooting ranges, and a person's proximity to a shooting range, therefore indicate, okay, if you're closer to a shooting range, you have a higher likelihood of owning a firearm. And they just use that to kind of build their argument that, again, they say, this team says that overall we are worse off, that guns should not be allowed in civilian hands, and that it's an overall detriment to society. So again, I mean, this is the type of stuff I think the White House or whoever, Congress, they are now approving. I think it's the CDC to study all this kind of stuff, right? So there's going to be a lot more studies, and all the funding is coming, and all of the leading, the background design philosophy is get rid of the guns. So you're only going to see more
so
of
we
this.
Need to justify it. So we need the
Right.
statistics that say what
Right.
we need the statistics to say to point in that direction, right?
Right.
Ultimately. Well, I don't think statistics are a good argument against like a fundamental individual right, right? And the problem is that people think that the government like is somehow responsible for granting you your rights, and therefore they can actually like take them away, right?
Mm-hmm.
But in reality, like that's not the argument, right? The argument is you have an inherent right to defend yourself and your family, right? If that's your responsibility. And you have a responsibility as a member of a society and as a member of a community to be ready to and willing to and able to provide for the common defense of your community, right? For against people that want to do harm in your community, right? If you're called upon to do that, right? So thankfully, that's not the norm in this country, but it doesn't mean that like there aren't circumstances that exist in the world or could come here that wouldn't cause that to change, right? And I would say that like the norm is not to live in relative peace and tranquility like we do. I would say that the norm is to live, with hostility and, and
we're
violence
very lucky.
and like hardship, right? So in general, I don't find some of those arguments about statistics and all of that stuff compelling, because ultimately it's about like fundamental individual rights that I don't think the government really has any real authority to reject, right? And when your government starts rejecting your individual rights, well, then the problem that you have is a government problem first and foremost, right? At that point,
which circles back to why we have
correct, which is the whole principle behind the Second Amendment to begin with, right? So when the government starts making anti-Second Amendment arguments, it's like, yeah, well, I said this on this live stream before, like I wouldn't let bees tell me that I couldn't use bee spray. You know what I'm saying? Like, if I have bees at my house, like, and I want to get rid of them or I want to keep them away, then I'm going to use the most appropriate tool to do that, right? And if they like try to pass legislation that says I can't do that, I'm going to be like, well, bees, like you don't get a vote in this,
buzz.
right? So that's kind of my feeling in this regard as well.
Yeah.
Related to this,
Let's hit them.
do you have the comments pulled up at all?
No, I didn't pull up.
They're hard to
StreamYard.
read on the mobile app.
Yeah, and it's only showing me like it says there's comments, but it only shows me like a third of them. Or not even.
Alright.
So just read them out.
We have one from Jonathan. He says, how many homicides are done by illegal guns, right? So like legality of ownership versus.
Well,
Like, how does
if we're gonna go back to the crime argument, because I'm just making this argument from a rights perspective, if we're gonna go to a crime argument, let's talk about like the people who are most prolific at violence, right? In general, is like a serial killer, right? So Jeffrey Dahmer, to my knowledge, never used a gun, but he was like responsible for a whole lot of murders, right? And so the implementation doesn't necessarily matter. If somebody's
Sure.
determined to like go out there and hurt people, they're just going to go out there and hurt people.
Well, that's kind of something that the other comment from Joe said is like, how many of those defensive uses are against an attacker that doesn't have a gun, so that violence would have happened even if there weren't guns.
Correct.
Right? Like it's not a gun violence.
Right. It's still a lethal force situation. It's just that in this particular instance, the lethal force went in a different direction.
Right. It's kind of a bad argument.
None of those arguments really are that compelling to me.
Yeah.
As it's just not very strong arguments. I don't know. They're just not very strong arguments.
Brandon.
I won't let you talk.
No, it's
I don't know if you have.
No, it's
I feel like I just keep
Fine.
cutting you off.
That's okay.
Well, we got one that Joe can do in a second. But,
Yeah.
Brandon, real quick, John asks, and you know it's John. Are the canoes okay?
Yeah.
I want to post. We. I guess first of all, we're going to address our social media. They keep killing us.
Yeah, we're gonna
It's tough.
take a brief. We're gonna post stuff, but not.
I think you're going to see us
Yeah.
on like.
I'm gonna join Twitter. I don't have a Twitter right now,
Yeah,
but
I
like
feel like Twitter's the way to go.
you
It's-
have
it's
to
just so-
guys. If you don't have
Yeah.
Twitter, like you got to move over there because ultimately, like Facebook, I posted you guys' story yesterday to my Instagram. Instagram pulled it
Got in
down
trouble.
immediately.
Yeah. It's just dumb. It's just dumb. Our Linktree got nixed, so like any of our
They cut it
QR
down.
codes that are out there, they're all worthless now because we got flagged for violating their terms of service. So we had a big windstorm yesterday, right? As a lot of you know, and I have some canoes because I like weird stuff, and I had some
Canoes are good.
canoes out front on a little rack that we made from the old pull-up bars that we had from a skirmish a
I love
long time
pull-up
ago. And man, each one of those, like that rack has to weigh 400 to 500 pounds. It's very heavy. Just the rack.
Those things
Those-
are beefy.
Those canoes weigh like 50 pounds each.
Well, and
So there's
it's
gotta
made out
be-
of like big pressure treated 6x6.
It is. Oh yeah. And so like that rack weighed say 400 to be on the light side. And those canoes, they're Kevlar, but they're still heavy. They're Winonas, right? So like they probably weigh a good 50 pounds. John can correct me, but they weigh a good amount. Say another at least 200 pounds. So you're talking there's like 600 pounds of weight there, and it just knocked them right over, right into our forklift. Luckily, I don't know when it happened. I'm assuming sometime in the middle of the night.
Yeah.
But like
It was-
yesterday, we go to take the flag down because it was super windy, and we waited too long. And we're standing there, and I see that the frame of the canoe stand is like teetering a little bit,
acting like a sail.
and I'm like, what can I do? Like at this point, what can I do?
Right.
You know, there's nothing. You know,
It wants to go over
It's
already.
gonna go. There's
Yeah.
unless I can get one of those giant concrete blocks on them, right?
Right.
So I don't know if any of them got damaged. I bought 10 of these things again because I'm stupid. And 6 of them are over at a friend's place getting repaired right now. So these are the 4. I can't remember if these. I'm hoping these are the 4 that were like the worst, and he would work on them later. So now there'll just be more for him to work on.
Sure.
Yeah, I mean they're made out of Kevlar, so they can't be hurt too bad, right? Yeah, they're fine.
I would assume.
The name like
Get some
vanilla.
Flex Seal on them, and
I'm not a canoe expert, so
you throw some Flex Seal on them, they'll be fine.
that tracks with the infomercial.
Yeah, they cut that one boat in half.
Right. Screen door, dude.
We had a question from Michael. He says, any thoughts on the PSA daggers? Range toy or carry?
Both.
Yes.
Both.
If you can get it.
Yeah, the tough thing is if PSA is even willing to send it to you.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a Glock copy, so like
Yeah.
it's pretty
With a weird like M&P hinge trigger and a slightly bulbous. The grip I found to be
I don't think I've actually held one.
round. I mean, yeah, if you want to be different, if you want to go not like off the normal beaten path, but people are Smith.
Are they cheap? What's a
Say,
good,
yeah,
like-
they're
Oh, the
they're
frames
very
are like
they're very affordable.
frames are like $50 to $100 man.
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
So it's if you don't want to get a Smith, you don't want to get a Sig, you don't want a Glock, you want
Yeah.
something.
Hmm.
You want the Mini Cooper of the gun world. They're cool, they work. There's a lot of stuff you can do to it. So I don't have any hate behind them at all. I just have
Nice.
a strong hate for PSA.
Yeah.
Strong hate.
I really thought they were way more 2A friendly, man, and then they stopped
Yeah.
sending stuff into New York, and I'm like, isn't that your whole?
The whole point.
Isn't that like the whole
Yeah.
onus behind what you're supposed to be doing?
I'm impressed by their glow up, I guess we'll say, like where
They've done a lot.
where they
done a
were
lot.
and then like where they are now. You know, like
They-
it's impressive.
Yeah, but at what price?
Sure.
Because like that's not principle. Like
Yeah.
the problem is like they can build a lot of cool shit, but I can't get it.
Mm-hmm.
So
Sure.
who does that actually help?
Yeah.
It helps them, but it doesn't actually help like the cause. You know what I'm
They
saying?
should to California. Probably not, right?
No.
Because they were supposed to be like about helping the cause. Like the whole idea behind like their whole mission statement, I thought in the beginning was like, we want to get as many inexpensive firearms into the like inexpensive like quality for the money.
Obtainable.
And like,
Yeah,
There's-
like just
can you buy a lower? Will they ship a lower?
no, they
No.
won't ship
They
almost
won't ship
anything
anything,
to
right?
us.
So yeah, it's like it was. I remember when like
can
Rock
get-
River was like one of the
you
first
can
companies that
get
kind
you
of
can
did
get
that.
something
like,
that's like impossible to argue, like a Henry Lever 22
Mhm.
or a Remington 870. But once
What
you,
about like a complete upper?
I don't think they're doing that anymore. Yeah, I think
They used to do parts kits and all of that,
Yeah,
but
right.
like
I remember like when we had first opened, we had an account with Rock River for like a year
Mhm.
maybe, because at that time they were still seen as like a very high end, you know, like precision,
Yeah.
kind of more of a marksman rifle, you know. Like
they were
not
more
just
for like
a-
the law enforcement side of stuff, or,
Yeah,
like
and
the
it was-
varmint shooting side. Yeah,
They were a brand, you know, like when we opened in 2014. I mean, still to this day, everybody and their brother makes an AR-15,
Mhm.
and there's nothing different about any of them. And it was like, all right, well, they were at least kind of one of the older, you know, say like Bushmaster and Colt are some of the oldest
Yeah.
ones, and then like okay, Rock River was out there. They were, you know, they're
but they
early.
actually had some cool shit too back in the day. They had
And they
like,
made
some
good stuff,
XM177 copies, and
And
they
then
had, like, some other-
I want to say in like 2015 or 16, they were like, nope, like we're not like, doesn't matter what it is. It could be a spring. We're not shipping it to New York. Like after this date, like nothing will leave this warehouse with a New York address on it. Don't care what it is. It was like, all right, well, fuck you guys then. Close our account. Like, why is the point of why even be a dealer of yours? You
Which
know,
is crazy because I don't know if like we're supposed to know this, but there are machine shops in Rochester right now that have contracts solely with Rock River.
oh, 100%.
So it's leaving
Yeah,
New York,
right.
to come back. Interesting.
But it's messed up, man, because like all of these people who are supposed to be like on our side,
Mhm.
like when it
They're
comes
just not.
time to like actually help the
Right.
people that need your help, you're not helping.
Mm-hmm.
And we're sorry to whoever asked about the PSA dagger. It's a really good gun, but we just don't care for the company.
It's hard, man. It is hard. I
But,
mean,
but it's only because we
Yeah.
used to really support them.
We
Like,
did.
We used to really.
I really want to support them because they have a lot of stuff that I personally want
Yeah,
to
the
get.
stuff that they're
Yeah.
doing now,
Yeah.
I think is cool. Like I want to be. I
Their-
want to be a supporter.
Their
of
Saber line, them applying out Nodax
they've got a
Spud,
whole. I was going to say they got a
It's
whole
the
like,
H&R
retro
line,
line,
yeah.
right? Yeah,
Fucking
it's
awesome.
super cool.
but
all the different copies of stuff that they're
yeah,
able to
it's,
churn out.
it's incredible. But not for us.
Call up Mr. Armory.
I'm gonna call up Palmetto himself. Listen here, State Armory.
Listen here, you tree. All right. Do we have any other cool? Is there any other cool comments?
Well, let's.
Well, we could segue into talk about companies that we thought care about everyone's freedom, like the NRA and maybe Wayne LaPierre and
Yeah.
Yeah, we can talk about that,
Pooping down his
and then we can talk about the CNP and TSOS
yeah,
because that was interesting.
the tit sauce.
You don't want to talk about the NARP? You don't want to talk about NARP?
Arnar.
Oh, NARP.
It's not gonna
Beretta did it. Beretta did it again, guys. They made a gun that's already been around.
Yeah, Beretta made a Bren too. It's actually like
Right?
good job,
Hey.
guys.
Well, they made another AR-18.
I don't know if it works better in Italian, maybe, but it's called the NARP, the new assault rifle platform. That's the name of the damn gun.
Which is
But
awful
it's-
that they even used the word assault.
But
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
none of it is new.
Maybe it flew like Antonio Margaretti. Like maybe it flows better in Italian. I don't know.
But Fredo, when we're talking about this, we watched
Cut that. Don't put that in. there.
Inglourious Bastards. All right, you're gonna toss the most like buongiorno.
I don't speak Italian. That's why I said second best. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, who cares, right? No.
I don't care about any spaghetti blasters almost. Like, I'm gonna be honest with you.
Is that the Beretta 92? Or like
Some of them
M9?
are kind of okay. Some
Yeah.
they have some cool variations, but I don't know, man. I worry about like the round counts, like what you could actually shoot through some of their stainless steel handguns before you run into issues with slide breakage and stuff like that.
I just hit so hard.
No, it's just because the slide has so little material to it in certain areas.
Okay.
It's got that open slide design, and like around the barrel ring and different stuff like that. The Inox 2s specifically, when they were first coming out, they were having issues with competition shooters and that were putting a lot of wear and tear on their guns.
Just don't shoot it that much.
Right.
Just
So
don't shoot it that much.
because
It's like a Ferrari. You don't drive.
I was
going to
say they're like Italian, so like they probably need a nap or
You look at
whatever.
it.
Like
You look at the gun. Nah.
the gun probably like needs
Slides
to
were never,
rest.
you were never meant to drop the slide. You're always supposed to count, leave around in the chamber, drop your mag, do another one.
Right.
Really?
So no, but it sounds good.
Hey, if it's good enough.
Got to baby those guns.
A lot of competition shooters don't. There's a lot about it.
Yeah, they just do it.
Are you breaking your ammo in half before you're putting it in? Because that's what they get some math. They're not supposed to do that.
So
Stereotypes.
I love them. My favorite thing. So Wayne LaPierre in the NRA. Terrible.
He's a big
segue.
poopy guy.
Yeah, he's a bad dude.
I feel like we all knew it for a long time. I mean, I feel like if you're the younger generation, like the NRA just doesn't speak to us, or doesn't do anything. They certainly don't really do anything for us in New York. I know technically the New York State Rifle and Pistol Association, who helped with the Bruin, or they initiated the Bruin decision, they're like the NRA's
Adjacent.
state affiliate
Yeah.
organization or whatever.
Mm.
I don't think they do dick for them at all. I think that was all like grassroots through
Sure.
NYSERPA members.
Right.
I don't know. It's just one of those. It's always felt like a scam, and it's always
But the tote bags.
right. And
You get a tote bag
for 8 years. I mean, the entirety of Obama's presidency, he was on like every other, if not every single one of their magazine, whatever the hell the NRA magazine is called.
Mhm.
Like, Obama's coming. He's coming for your guns, and it would just be, they don't do anything other than just rattle up the boomers to donate money so that Wayne can buy more suits and vacations to Bahamas, and like it's just
and
it was
fly
just-
private Brandon.
yeah, sorry,
He can't be
sorry.
flying commercial.
Of course, like why would he?
Okay,
You
he's
wanna
got to
get-
get the fancy
You want to
Uber
get seen in
Black.
JetBlue?
He can't get just regular Uber.
Just the guy in the $7,000 custom suit. Right, commercial? No, I don't think so.
Tell that to the guy in the $3,500 vans.
Come on.
That's great. Yeah, no.
It just, So that's why we, Ride or Die, FPC, Firearms Policy, Coalition,
dude, they're always doing
Oh.
work.
they are streamlined AF, efficient. They have a singular mission. Just
Sue governments in
Yeah,
various states in
lawsuits.
courts.
boom, boom, boom.
All they're doing is just
they're all lawyers.
That's
and
it. They're very focused. Matter of fact, I just saw
lawsuit
something.
printer go burp.
I just saw something about California. What did they got something overturned in California?
Their ammo background check.
Ammo background check.
Yeah.
Yes.
Now, was their system exactly like ours, or did you have like an ID card?
It sounds like an ID card. I'm pretty
Yeah.
sure it's an ID card.
Somebody from California, chime in if you could.
Which we know you're watching.
Obviously.
I think
You're very
they
We're
had-
huge
but
on
it
the
was-
West
it
Coast.
was-
super behind.
it was same, but different. Like you had to do a background check and get
Like
an
a
ID
Brady- like a
card.
Brady
and
card
then-
almost, a
Yeah,
Brady
like a
check
FOID,
card, yeah.
I guess. Doesn't Illinois have that?
Yeah,
Or
firearms on
Illinois.
an ID card. Yeah.
So that was struck down, right? That's what Benitez
Mm-hmm.
vanished him, but that's what Benitez did. And we're hoping that can help us here in New York. I don't know if it exactly works that way, but it's got to help at least a little bit.
Set precedent. at
Yeah,
least.
setting up at least a couple dominoes there. So
Not if, when.
Yeah, no, it's good stuff. What FPC is doing, and yeah, the NRA. I've been saying it for years, man. Nobody listens to me when I say it, or nobody used to listen, I guess, but people more so have kind of gotten wise to their game.
Mm-hmm.
But also the training side of the house for them is kind of like a cash grab as well, right? Because if you want to get through, like, let's say that I wanted to become a training counselor through the NRA, I don't just have to like take and pass a specific curriculum for training counselor. I have to go to like NRA basic pistol, and then I have to go to NRA basic pistol instructor, and then I have to go to personal protection inside the home, and then I have to go to personal protection outside the home, and then I have to go to defensive, or I have to go to like the shotgun class and the rifle class, and then whatever. Like there's a whole progression of classes, all of which put money in the NRA's pocket, right? But then you have to put a specific number of people through NRA training as well,
Right.
which puts more money in the NRA's pocket, and you have to make sure, right? But you also, if you want to have an NRA instructor certification and have it recognized, then you also have to become a member of the NRA, right? Like you don't just complete the NRA instructor certification and now you're trained. It's like, no, you become an NRA member and now you get they hold your certificate hostage.
Right.
You don't even get it unless you pay them for a membership.
And then it kind of sucks that they're like considered to the public like
to be like
the gold standard
of
training, which, you know, I mean, all right, they were, I don't want to say the first training or whatever, but
I think they are like the oldest.
Like
they might not be the first, but they're the oldest currently recognized.
Legacy. They're a legacy.
And like the basics are the basics. You know, you can't really argue much about that, I guess. So here's like the 4 basic rules of gun safety. This is a trigger. This is a muzzle. This is a, you know, there's some of that stuff. Those are just facts that they're presenting. But it just sucks that arm, there's like the training arm of it, is associated with the political arm of the NRA.
Yeah, but
and the Wayne LaPierre arm of the NRA, and it's just there's this, you know, I don't know how, like, I don't know any side, I don't know anything of the inner workings of them, but it almost seems like they're incompatible, not incompatible per se, but just 2 complete different units. Like,
I don't know, man. Yeah, no, I agree with you that I think that the missions are totally different from the ILA versus like the actual on the ground NRA as a training organization and a membership driven, membership driven entity, I guess. But I would also push back, man, on the idea that like the training that they're offering is not like wildly different than some of the other stuff that's out there. And I'll just point to one really specific example that really gets on my nerves, and it's like the most basic thing in the world. Firearm safety rule number 1. Okay. The way that the NRA teaches the rule, and this is the way that it's given in their classes, and this is the way that it appears in their books, is always point your firearm in a safe direction. Okay. That's rule number 1 according to the NRA. Now, that sounds good, but if I just tell you point your firearm in a safe direction, if I say, Brandon, I'm going to take my gun out of my holster right now and I'm going to hand it to you. It's a hot pistol, but I'm going to hand it to you and I want you to point it in a safe direction. I don't give you any other like guidance on it. Do you think that you're always going to point it in what I perceive to be the safest possible direction, even though I'm the one that's handing you the gun?
Right. Kind of a matter of opinion.
It's a little subjective when I don't say, hey, safe direction defined as the direction in which you eliminate the risk that you're going to injure or kill yourself or another person, and simultaneously trying to mitigate property damage to whatever degree you can, right? Because I only have one muzzle, which means I can only choose one direction, which means the direction I choose has to be the correct one, right? And that safest muzzle direction is subject to change at any time. And I have to be able to identify the next safest direction if that happens to change, right? So it's a conscious decision-making process. And I'm not really giving you all of the like basis to make a good decision about what is and what isn't a safe direction if I'm teaching you the NRA way and just saying, point your gun in a safe direction.
Yeah.
Right. So I would offer some push, even on like the most basic shit.
Mhm.
The way that they teach it is a very like cookie cutter, one dimensional. I have one way that I'm going to teach you to solve a problem.
Sure.
When I
Sure.
ask you to load a handgun, when I ask you to load a pistol, I'm going to show you one method to load that pistol.
Uh-huh.
As far as like when you insert the magazine, you're going to close the slide stop, and whatever way I teach, or you're going to close the slide, whatever way I teach you to close the slide, that's the way.
Mm-hmm.
That is now the way. It doesn't matter that you could use your support side thumb or your strong side thumb, or you could rack the handgun.
Sure.
Right? It doesn't
Right.
matter that there is multiple different ways to solve that problem. I'm going to teach you the way,
Yeah.
and now that's what you have.
They definitely want to own, like you said, this is the way. This is the only way. This is the one true word, right?
If
And
it's safe, I say do it, right? Like
you can see too, one of the things the NRA has done, like what have they done for New Yorkers? Well, they've done something for themselves by making sure they're lobbying so that when the laws are created, who can teach the class to get you your pistol permit?
well, they are the
Is it
national
the
rifle.
CCA?
Well,
That's
are
not
they
certain, right.
are they our national
Right,
rifle association?
right. Yeah.
Instantiated in 1871 or whatever,
Mhm.
right? Like
Yeah, it's they make sure that they are always lobbied onto the lists of state required training lists or whatever the case may be.
well, yeah,
Boy
because
Scouts,
state mandated training is the
any of that
lowest
kind of
common
stuff.
denominator.
Right.
Anyway.
Speaking of training,
Yeah.
John asks about how much is our pistol permit course?
$3.99. That's the normal going rate. It's 18 hours of training, which we think is a heck of a deal, and that is all inclusive. You are going to be there for 16 hours of classroom training, and there's 2 hours of exercises and live fire type drills and
Yeah.
shooting. So that includes like the rentals of the firearm. It includes
Ammunition,
ammunition.
hearing and eye protection, all that stuff.
We provide lunch both days, so like you're there for 18 hours, and it's all in $3.99. We've got a bunch of classes coming up. They are pretty much full up until I want to say like June,
Yeah.
but there are some spots in there a little bit here and there. So
People cancel. Like
yeah,
happens.
that does happen.
Don't
Call
get-
us. You can get on
yeah.
like a waiting
Don't
list
get discouraged.
for them. And obviously, we're still handling people from the Kodak class. We had an amazing turnout for that, and I hope to do another one of those potentially in the future. We've been talking with the Kodak Center. Not surprised. We're welcome back to do other events.
No,
there.
the
They
guests
were-
were great. Everybody that came
Yeah.
was great. They were very like respectful and cool, and the
Uh-huh.
place was clean when we left and everything. And it was.
I think if we do it again, we will do it slightly differently to alleviate some of these issues that we're having. We never expected there'd be that many people that took the class, so it's been a little bit of a
Which was
learning
awesome.
experience. Well, oh, it's amazing. It's a good
Yeah.
it's a good problem to have. But
Well, it's not even the people that like went to the like. If it was just that class, that'd be one thing. But it's all the follow-on training that has to
Right.
happen to
Right.
support
right,
all of those people, because a surprising number of them are continuing through the rest of the course,
Right.
which is awesome. So that's the real driver,
more than
right?
more
It's
than
like-
twice as many as we anticipated.
Right.
Which is awesome, and it just shows that there's a lot of people that are interested in protecting their families, protecting themselves. That's I think obviously there are some people that get it because they're a collector, because hey, I know my dad or uncle or mom or whoever has a bunch of guns, I'm going to inherit them, or there's a lot of reasons you'd get a permit. But speaking for most people, I think 90 to 95% of people are getting it for self-defense reasons. They want to take their own personal protection into their own hands and be self-responsible for that.
Whenever I stand in that classroom and I ask the class as a group, like, hey, who's all here to get their concealed carry permit, or more specifically, like, who intends to carry a firearm, like pretty much right out of the gate, or as soon as you feel like you've gotten whatever you deem to be like the appropriate level of like training. And yeah, I would say 90 to 95% of hands go up. So yeah, that's the mindset, I think, but that's driving a lot of it as far as the demand for classes. And
I think it's
So-
encouraging too. I wish more reporters and I wish more of our government people that are trying to ban us and you from enjoying these rights. I wish they could see the people that we see getting these permits. It's not
Mhm.
21-year-old. I mean, it's let me. There are everybody gets their permits with us, but when you hear, anti-2A media or government people,
Do you mean like Rachel Maddow?
you would think it's all like that incel 21-year-old, like
Yeah.
chip on his shoulder, like I need a gun, because I got a small PP and like I got, you know what I mean? Like that's the projection by the media. But when come to our classes, it's people of all walks of life. It's young, it's old, it's men, it's women. I mean, it's such a diverse group of people. And, I think truly if we went to a society, if you could snap your fingers and all firearms disappear, and okay, now everybody's equal if you're strong and able-bodied
Mhm.
and, can do physical things, violence against someone else. So now you've taken away that ability for all those people that, maybe they're older, maybe they're injured, maybe they have a disability, maybe whatever, right? I just think it's such a, I don't know. We were talking before the stream, again, talking about this study where they're like, okay, are the defensive uses outweighing the homicides that are committed? And I think it's such a loaded question, because how many crimes are prevented just from a psychological level of a criminal second guessing, like, hey, I'm a wannabe criminal, like I want to go out and commit a crime tonight.
You can look it up, and you'll actually get wildly different estimates. You'll get estimates, some that are in like the tens of thousands,
Mm-hmm.
and you get
How
some
many
that are
crimes
up
committed?
into
Or
prevented. Yeah.
Yeah.
You get some that are up into like the 200,000 and 300,000.
But it's like if you are a
But
criminal,
you gotta go somewhere in the middle of that low end estimate, and
Right.
the high end estimate, because nobody actually knows
Sure.
in a lot of cases.
Sure. But say you're a criminal in a country where there are no firearms, you're not worried about that. You're not worried about little old lady defending herself with a shotgun because she can't have one. But here in this country, I think it's one of those, like, there's no way to quantify it. There's no way to measure it. There's no way to do anything. But I think there are crimes that are prevented solely by the fact that person is like, oh shit, like I would go rob that guy, but he might have a gun. So I'm not going to, or that lady, or whatever, right? Like there's that fear. And then there are those situations where, you're concealed carrying, you get that spider sense or whatever, like you think something bad might go down or whatever.
Right.
And this reason that this person, right? Maybe they get close to you, maybe they come to approach you, and you expose and go to draw. You're not intimidating them. That's not your intent. Your intent is to protect your life. Your intent is, if they get to this point, I'm going to do X action because I feel justified or whatever the situation may be.
Sure.
And you get to that point, and then it de-escalates because they realize, like, oh, wow, this guy is armed and it's not worth it. So I'm GTFOing.
Right.
There's no statistic for that. You're never going to look that up. That doesn't exist.
Right.
Nothing happened, right?
Yeah.
So it's just, they can take into account, I guess, the data that they can find. How many shooting ranges are there? How close are they to Rochester? Like, it feels weird that we're in this one study, like, in a way, because we are a data point they use. But I don't know. You can never really quantify. You can never truthfully answer that question, I think, from purely data of, are guns worth it or not?
But that's not even the.
So you're going to fail when you try to prove it with data.
But that's not even the question, right? Because the question is like, well, I guess the first question that we have to ask is, first of all, who gets to decide whether or not you have a gun as an individual?
Sure.
And I would say that decision should be made by you as the individual. Why? Because guns exist in the world.
Yeah.
And like the debate has ended on like whether or not there are going to be guns. Right?
Yeah.
Because, like, you can't. First of all, you
Hundreds of
can't
millions of them.
wave a magic wand, right? But
Right.
like there are cases right there in that there are stories rather right there in that stack of papers about people making ghost guns in the state of New York.
Mm-hmm.
And like, yeah, he got caught eventually, but like he got caught because he was making purchases of gun parts online, and eventually like somebody saw it
Mm-hmm.
and was like, hey, we should go talk to this dude about some of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And so, he ended up getting jammed up. But how many people are getting their gun parts from like a secondary source or a tertiary source? How many people are stealing firearms? How many people are going to Home Depot and putting together one of those slam fire shotguns?
Yeah.
Or some kind of tube steel submachine gun from like the Anarchist Cookbook or whatever. Or like how many different ways can you make a zip gun
Sure.
for like a single use? Like there are prisons right now
Mm-hmm.
where there are like firearms inside of prison walls, right?
Look
or
at
like homemade contraband.
Look at that guy
projectile weapons.
from Japan that assassinated their prime minister or whatever a few years ago. Like you can't even buy
Like
ammo
an airsoft
in that
gun,
country.
right.
But he was a motivated individual. He made it happen. He, made a firearm, made a bullet, 2 bullets, whatever it was.
Criminals
right?
are going to
Like,
commit crime, right?
Yeah.
Like if somebody's motivated to hurt other people, and guess what? Like if you just took all the guns out of this country and then somebody just showed up with a gun, well, now he's in charge, I guess.
Yeah, right,
He's got the gun,
Yeah.
and like that's it. So I just don't understand like where even these arguments come from, because
Right.
like the simple fact of the matter is like guns exist, and since guns exist and I
Mhm.
have the right to protect myself, I have the right to have a gun because other people can and will and do.
Mhm.
Right. And so
And-
and guns aren't going anyplace. So
Right.
even if the government decided like, yes, every serialized firearm has to be turned in by such and such a date. Okay, well, that might happen, but how many unserialized firearms? There's
Right.
still
Right.
probably
Hundreds
almost
of
one
millions. Yeah.
per every person.
Yeah.
How many times have you seen NSN?
Sure.
Like no
Oh, yeah.
serial number
Yeah.
on a gun that comes through
I mean, just
this shop.
since 1998, when the NICS system was started, right? There's been like 380. We're basically coming up on 400 million NICS checks. Okay.
In
Now,
a 25-year period.
in
So
roughly 25 years. Now, some of those, yes, are in a state like ours. You buy an old gun, you got to do a background check when it's from one person to another, or
but that's
if a gun
even
shop
here. That's a
buys
fairly
it-
recent thing.
right. Or say, you sell your old gun to a gun shop. It's not necessarily a new gun, but there have been at least 300 to 400 million purchases of a firearm just in the last 25 years.
How many of those
We've had-
NICS checks form have multiple serial numbers
Sure.
on them?
And I mean, cartridge firearms date back to late 1800s, right? So I mean, you've got well over 100 years of transfers and sales that were never
Documented.
documented,
anyway.
really. Yeah. So it's like, I don't know. I just don't see, you've either got to work on, we've talked about this before, like, in my opinion, the government should be focusing on
Controlling their own select fire firearms and not worrying about where
Fast and
other people's
Furious, yeah.
or Afghanistan. Let's talk
Right.
about the Taliban using M4s right
Leaving
now.
all sorts of stuff over there. Yeah. I just think the government should be working on the actual, like, what are the root causes of whatever the crime may be, right? Like, someone just doesn't wake up one day and they're like, oh, I could buy a gun, so I'm going to, and now I have that gun, so now I'm going to go murder someone. Like, and I mean, a lot of the gun violence, I hate even using that word, but a lot of those, like that 20,000 number, like, if you're not involved in a gang, like, how many actual, like, just senseless murders happened where, like, you were just wrong place, wrong time, like, how many of those happened? I'm positive that there are more vehicle deaths that happened in a similar fashion, because pretty much every vehicle death was wrong time,
Senseless,
right place. Yeah, like,
Yeah.
you didn't do anything, you just were the car that the drunk guy
Just
hit
happened to
or
be
whatever.
there. Right?
That's like 20,000 people a year.
Mhm.
So, okay, there's 20,000 gun deaths a year, but how many of those, like I said, were just an innocent bystander versus someone involved with some type of, not that anybody deserves to be shot in those situations, but like, if you're just a normal person, you're not going to die on Avenue D of gang-related drug violence. Like, yes, sometimes those people do get injured, but
statistically speaking, that's a pretty rare
Right,
segment of the
right.
population, right?
right,
But to your
it's a few
point,
thousand a year.
to your point, I'd be interested, like, to see some of those numbers broken down a little bit better.
Mhm.
Like, hey, we always talk about like how many homicides involve firearms. Yes, of those homicides that involve firearms, how many of those involve alcohol, right? And then of those that involve alcohol, how many are like two people that like know each other
Sure.
or like live together,
Right.
Like how many of
Or
the
domestic disputes.
right?
or-
In other
yeah,
words,
yeah.
like how many of those things would have happened with or without a firearm?
Right. It would have been a knife.
It would have been a
hammer,
baseball bat, like right. Somebody's going to be injured or killed in it. Not to be like, right, but like then like the gang violence, like is implementation really the problem in that instance, or is it like
Right.
more of just an issue of like people that live in areas that are poor in resources and don't feel like they have a lot of opportunities, and so they end up in illegal like black market commerce activities, and then through that they have to get involved in violence to like solve turf disputes or whatever, right? So how many of those people, like, is that a problem with the guns, or is that just a problem like
Right.
with the war on drugs
Right.
in general,
Right.
or whatever, right? So like there's a lot of different ways that you have to like parse out that information to make it actually so it makes sense to like understand if it's a problem with guns or if it's a problem
Right.
with other shit that's going on.
Right.
And like we have a lot of problems anyway that don't necessarily involve guns, and I think it's just really easy to look at.
Where's the dude that from New York City?
The ghost gun guy?
Yeah, where was that?
It's in that stack for
It's in
sure.
here somewhere.
Yeah, I read it.
This guy right here, Dexter Taylor, normal guy, engineer. He got into building firearms. He would buy like an 80%er, finish it himself, right? And he'd build a firearm. I mean,
Which in a free state is perfectly legal to
So-
do, by the way. Like if you live in some place
Right.
that's not restrictive on firearms in general, if you can have a pistol,
This-
you can build one yourself. If you
this-
can have an AR, you can build it yourself.
this to me is the equivalent of building your own computer and publishing some whatever literature you want it to be, anti-government it doesn't matter. You made your own computer and you're distributing your ideas, and the government coming in and saying you have broken the law because you didn't buy an Apple computer, you didn't buy a Dell, you didn't buy a Compaq. They still exist, right? Like you didn't buy a computer that was made by a company from a dealer. You've broken the law. Could you imagine? That is absolutely insane.
Yeah, but
Absolutely insane.
it's
You built your own house. You don't have Fourth Amendment protections.
Right.
Like, we can come in here and search this house however much we want. You didn't buy it from
Because you didn't
buy it from a dealer, a builder.
you're not playing
You built it
our
your
game.
own self. Yeah.
You're not,
Like,
you're not inside of our little
absolutely
system.
insane. And this guy, I love this quote. He says, "New York State has no more right to tell me that I may not keep and bear arms than it has to tell me that I have to sit in the back of the bus."
Oh,
This is a black guy. This is a black guy from
Wow.
New York City.
That's
right?
a great
Yeah.
I mean, I
Right.
love that.
And it's the truth. I mean, what right does the government have to tell you that you cannot just build a tool?
Oh,
You
California.
can't build an item.
Sorry to interrupt. California was actually nonviolent felons. FPC just beat them on that because California was trying to impede the rights of nonviolent felons who had gotten convictions in other states. There were 3 of them
Yeah.
that were plaintiffs in this case, and FPC won in court in California. I think it was a federal court, so what would be that'd be 2nd district in California or 9th. That's the 9th Circuit Court, right? So yeah, but yes, they just won in that suit. FPC did because it's the same thing, right? Like California is trying to tell you that because you were a nonviolent felon convicted in another state, that gives them somehow the right and the justification to impede your ability to exercise your Second Amendment right, even though you had your rights reinstated in the cases of all those 3 individuals. So even though California says that they want like equal rights and that they believe in like criminal justice reform and a second chance for all of these people, right? Because those people want to do something that doesn't agree with them philosophically,
Sure,
right? Because they don't want them to be free people,
uh-huh.
right? Or they want to be free people in a different way. They don't want to chop their dicks off or whatever. So, but I bet if they wanted to chop their dicks off, that California would be on board with that. They probably wouldn't be trying to.
You get a grant for it.
Or if they wanted to cross the border illegally, I bet they get like a bank card or something like that. So I don't know, man. Like
in my research, I saw an article that made me very mad about New York State. There's a migrant crisis, right? There's a bunch of these people here in the state.
Yeah, 100%.
And New York State Governor Hochul is trying to make it so that the state is going to like easy pass, like fast lane, 4,000 migrants into state jobs.
Yeah,
they're going to like bump them to the top of the list and waive all the requirements and just give them like state jobs. And it was like, well, what kind of jobs? Like, all right, I mean, the guy's gonna mow the grass, or you know what I mean? Like, he's gonna be a janitor. Who cares, right? They're like, no, they're looking to hire like lifeguards for the town parks and stuff, and like the city-owned pools. It's like, what? Are you kidding me? Like, that's crazy.
Are they good swimmers?
That's great.
First of all, like we know they have one qualification, and that is they're not white people.
Right, and it's just the government is just. I'm from the government, and I'm here to help. And that's just the scariest.
But help
whom? Yeah.
The
help the ratings.
The problem is
help
that
the ratings on CNN.
The problem is that they're helping the wrong people. I think
they're helping themselves. They're helping the elite, the same elite that
we're gonna.
They have protection. They have guys with
T-shirts
guns.
They were going to eat.
You know, they have guys with guns that protect them, and then they try to take your guns away from you. You know?
Well, because you're easier to extort.
And that's why this article made a lot of sense that Canadians are getting their permits in record numbers.
They already had their. Okay, here's the thing about that pisses me off so much. They had semi-automatic rifles, and Canada took them away because they knew where all of them were.
Mm-hmm.
So now you're going to register your guns again so they can take them again?
Yeah.
I don't understand. What are we doing? That just sounds like tyranny with extra steps.
It definitely. I don't like it. I mean,
but Brandon, what's the point of getting a permit if you already had legal guns and they took them?
Right.
What does the permit do besides register the guns and put your name in? Now it gives your picture.
Now you're on a list. Right.
Well, you're already on a list, but now the list that you're on comes with your name and your photograph and your address attached to it, and the serial number of all of your guns. Like, so they just made it easier for them next time they want to do confiscation, or if they want to know who to shoot because they might have a gun. Now they got your picture.
Well, it's Canada too,
so it's medical assistance in dying. So what they're gonna do?
They're not gonna take your gun. They're just gonna tell you.
They're gonna euthanize you.
You should just. Have you thought about killing yourself? Jesus Christ. It's fucked up.
If I lived in Canada, yeah, I would be thinking about killing myself. Probably.
The ID.
But I'm not because I live in America.
You think it smells like
maple syrup?
You know how we say John Smith.
I think it smells like Trudeau.
Joel Specimen. That's crazy.
Joel Specimen.
Joel Specimen.
Well, at least they tell you on the face of the thing how they think of it.
Yeah, right. Yeah,
you're a specimen.
100% smells like maple syrup.
The paper. I spilled some maple syrup on it.
It probably smells like Jenny too.
It smells like Jenny. Yeah, weird. This permit smells like
maple syrup and river
Jenny Light.
beer.
Yeah. Do you have any other comments?
We have a few.
Oh, cool.
So, in more positive news, Jonathan was saying that he can't wait till the range is open so he can shoot his shotgun again. Do you have an update for people?
So we are working along. I mean Thompson Builds. They have been taking advantage. They took a lot of advantage of the good weather that we had. They're still out there. They were out there yesterday. They've been out there today. They're working. They're here real early every day. We're making good progress. I think hopefully here in the next couple of weeks, we will be able to get into the range building and start working on the build out of the shooting range itself. So that was one of the things that we really asked of them was, all right, we need the range up first because that's going to take us a few months at least to build out. So that building needs to be built so we can work on that while they build the rest of it. And yeah, we're very excited. They've got a lot done. Like I said, I think in the next couple of weeks, that building, I don't want to say it'll be done, but it'll have a roof on it. It'll have walls on it. It'll be enclosed, and we can be working on there. And they're still on track for this summer. Hopefully by June, we'll have a completed building. It won't be done because we have to do the inside build out, all the walls and the this and that, the counter and things like that. When we open up, like officially, it might be this might be the front counter, like
Something like that.
it'll be interesting to say the least. But we're trying our best, and we appreciate everybody that's stuck with us, all of our members that have stuck with us through this time, and we just we're cabin fever. It's fully set in. I mean, it's
100%. Yeah, man.
You
I'm
really
excited.
can't describe how awful it truly is.
And especially now, the anticipation is just building and
Yeah.
building because
Yeah.
everything's getting you can tell it's getting closer, and literally every day you can tell it's getting a little bit
Right.
closer.
You
Right.
realize,
But it's still
your workspace.
so far away.
Yeah.
Still that it's
And it's frustrating like before. Not I'm not trying to talk bad about Thompson at all, but before, like, we were the builders, so we would be working, like me and my dad, like we'd be working 16-hour days.
Yeah.
Like we would just be, if we could work, we were, and there was never like a time we weren't working. And like these guys, it's their job, so they're there. They put in a good 8, 9, 10 hours, and then they gotta go home because they're getting paid to do
because
this.
like OSHA and like
yeah,
whatever,
like there's rules and
there's
stuff.
like
yeah.
all sorts of
So
regulations.
where I'm excited for, I guess, is once we have the ability to, like, okay, we got to do all the walls inside. We got to do the trim work. We got to put the tongue groove pine up, whatever. I am hoping to lean on some of you out there that have wanted to help since day one, since the fire happened. We've had an outpouring of support. How can I help? How can I help? How can I help? Food, beer. It's always helpful.
not in that order.
But either way, yeah, beer or food. And now it'll be swinging some hammers and hauling some boards around. And we're going to need some help. We really will.
Measuring twice and cutting once.
Yeah. And I know there's a lot of you that want to help just from that, community aspect of it. So stay tuned. There will be some opportunities, coming up relatively soon where you'll be able to help us. And that's, we're going to need it and we're going to appreciate it.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Speaking of new things, tomorrow is a new month,
Ooh.
and Donna was asking if you could tell a little bit more about the Mission 22 thing.
Yeah, because the Ruck
Oh,
March challenge
yeah.
starts
Yeah.
tomorrow.
That starts tomorrow. Oh my gosh. So I saw Mission 22, which we've worked with before. They were our major benefactor a few Freedom Weekends ago.
Yeah.
Was that 21? Maybe?
No.
Was it a fun run or 20?
It
Was
was.
it the 19th? Because
It was 19. It
was
was
it
the
before
first
the
year that I
pandemic?
was here. It
Yeah,
was
because we did the 22 to none.
Mission
So,
22 thing.
yep, we did a 5K fun run and we raised like $10,000, $11,000 maybe
And it was
for
fun,
Mission
too.
22. And it
A
was
lot of awesome
fun.
people came out and helped us.
And so I saw on Facebook they were doing a challenge for March, and it's a 48-mile ruck challenge. Okay.
Mhm.
So first question, what is rucking? It's basically hiking with a backpack, right? Right. So there's really no minimum requirements or any of that. It's like do your own comfort level type of stuff. and no one is expecting anyone to do 48 miles all at once. Although that would be pretty badass. What's the farthest you ever like hiked in the Army? They don't go that far.
Well, the
That's the thing.
farthest I ever went in one day, according to like map, like
Yeah.
plotting grid coordinates and then like all that
Yeah.
stuff, was like 15.
It's a lot.
Or no, I'm sorry, like 22 clicks. It was a lot.
Yeah.
Because like you have to do a 12 miler every once in a while, which is like 20 kilometers.
Mm-hmm.
And like you can do a 20-kilometer march in like under 3 hours is like the standard.
Mm-hmm.
So that's like 15 minutes per mile.
Mm-hmm.
Now that's only with a 35-pound load.
Mm-hmm.
But when you go to SFAS, which is where I was on like the longest ruck marches ever in
Mm-hmm.
my lifetime, your ruck is about 60 pounds dry.
Wow.
And you got to carry like your little rubber duck, and you're wearing your ruck for like 16 to 18 hours a day. It's just different.
It's a lot.
It's like
That's a lot.
it's totally different. But yeah, so
So-
that would be like my
Yeah.
experience with that. But
So
we have
what
to do
they're hoping for is that you do a mile and a half every day in March, and that will total up to 48 miles total. Now, obviously, that might not be possible, so you might do 5 miles one day, 5 miles another, whatever you can do. They have links on their website where you can do a, like a fundraising campaign, like, hey, sponsor me.
there's like a lane.
$1 a
for like
mile,
a- yeah.
whatever. Yeah.
Mhm.
So they want to raise money, and I don't think we've brought it up yet. Mission 22, their objective, their mission is to end veteran suicide. As a lot of you know, unfortunately, 22 veterans a day commit suicide, and that is a tragedy. That's terrible. And I think we've gotten as a country a lot better. I mean, think about how like World War I and II guys. Here was your therapy, right? Like
Right.
that was the only way they knew. Probably even into Vietnam and in the Gulf War, that was like the only way they knew how to treat any of this kind of stuff. But it's still tragic how many. I mean, I don't want to get too personal, but like you've been touched. I know you've lost guys, buddies, and stuff. Like
yeah, like 8, like
just a few.
just
That's terrible.
Just a
That's
few.
that's insane.
Yeah, no, 8 is a lot. It seems like a lot. Yeah, I don't know. I don't really know how many people.
I need to put you on the
I don't,
spot like that.
no, I don't know if that would be like more than. It seems like more than average. Feels like it would be more than
Proportion,
average.
Yeah, like
But yeah, that's I think it's a combat engineer thing, partially because of like all the TBIs and different stuff like that.
yeah.
I think that a lot of it has to do with like head injuries and mild traumatic.
That's
brain
what we should be
injuries and
fucking
CTE
studying.
and stuff
like
like that.
that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think
You know
those
what I mean?
kind of
Like-
things are probably more important and like those
Yeah.
affect. But I do think like I don't know if the 22 number is still like a valid number.
Hopefully that's coming.
I
back.
feel like it's on its way down. I would think. At least I hope so.
Yeah.
But I also think that like the research seems to be indicating from the little bit that I've read that like the farther you get away from your like MTBI or like your post-concussive syndrome,
Yeah.
some people do like get better over time or like learn coping mechanisms or like you know what I mean, like
Sure.
they kind of adapt and different things like that. But I don't know, exactly what the numbers say now. But
Sure. Now it's been a while. Do you know of any of the specific programs Mission 22 does? I know they're a big organization. I know
They used to do like they
they
used to be involved in like helping people get dogs, I think, and like with getting guys into like jujitsu classes and different things like that. And it seemed like
some, like job programs and stuff too.
yeah, I
where
think
they'll
they had
help
like
you.
employment help potentially. They did have a diverse kind of array of programs and things that they offered to kind of help, but it was specifically identified areas that they felt were highly sensitive areas for suicide and stuff like that.
A lot of it is awareness too, of just bringing the public's attention to it and letting them know, hey, like a lot of us have military veterans in our families, or a neighbor or a friend or whatever. Like it doesn't cost you anything to check in on them and just be that friend and just be that door that's always open.
Right. I
For
think
you know?
that's a big part of it too, is just getting people aware of like, hey, there's kind of like a stigma around mental health in the veteran community or whatever. But if you need help, you should definitely seek help before
Yeah.
you take any like actions that are permanent, right?
Sure.
Like ultimately,
100%.
we always just say that suicide is a permanent solution to a temporary problem,
Mhm.
right? So whatever you're dealing with, there's always somebody that can help. You just got to ask for it.
Yeah. So I had posted that we will be doing some like group rucks around. I haven't firmed up any, specifics of when and where. I'm sure we'll do some here. We've got some nice.
I was gonna say maybe I'll come out and just maybe not like lead one, but maybe
Yeah,
I'll just
absolutely.
come out, and if people want to come and do it or whatever,
We're just singing fucking army,
just go.
motivational,
But it's gonna have to be
we're
we're gonna have to do 2 miles out and 2 miles back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm
otherwise,
not
it's
gonna.
like, what's the point?
Yeah, I'm not gonna go out for.
Same here.
I'm not gonna
Yeah.
do like a mile and a half.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna waste my time. If I'm gonna put a rucksack on, we're gonna spend some, spend
Uh,
45
some
minutes or an
quality
hour.
time together. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
And
We can-
so
So Pats are super out here, super not that mine won't be mission focused, but yours will be a different. My mission focus will be to take you to Gregory's.
oh, dude, we're
Like,
gonna
get
have
cookies and come back.
we're gonna
It's a
have
mile and a
a
half.
watch.
That's
We're gonna stop at the turnaround point and change our socks and shit. Hydrate. Be checking your feet.
Pat just randomly
checking your feet for hot spots when we come back. We're gonna have a good time.
There's a bunch of salty veterans that are getting turned on by this right now that are
They're like,
Hell
drink
yeah,
water and change my
dog.
socks.
So yeah, keep. I don't know where the hell we're gonna post them because social media hates us, but
Twitter.
Keep an eye out. Yeah, we'll.
I'm
put
literally
it out there.
going home and making a Twitter.
Has anybody gotten
I
a
don't even
text? Has anybody gotten a text from us at all? We send those out, but I don't know if they actually work. or
Dude,
not.
everybody thinks those are spam though.
Probably.
It's
us.
When I get it, because the only ones that I seem to get are from USPS. USPS, we have a delivery that we can't with an incomplete address. I'm like, no, the fuck you don't. That's not what
Do you ever get
no,
my,
the Postal Service does.
Do you ever get my you up? At 2 or 3. I'll text you hey, you up?
I wasn't gonna. It's called on the down low for
Sorry.
a reason. What are you doing?
Hey, bro. Dwayne will text me that.
I know. Of course you will. Come over.
I learned that you can still poke someone on Facebook because of Dwayne.
I know.
Dwayne just fucking
He's so hilarious.
little rascal.
Yeah, he's a funny fucking dude.
What else we got over there for comments?
And there's a quick one. John was asking about recommendations on to a prepaid lawyer service. Recommendations for New York.
Oh, you can't do
That's
it,
an easy
man.
question,
Yeah, unfortunately, I used to sell the USCCA insurance before they outlawed it, and that was pretty cool because when you got to be a USCCA instructor, you could also become I forget what they called it, but you could
Yeah.
but
Sell
you're
the
basically
insurance.
a broker for the
Yeah, yeah,
insurance,
yeah,
and you
cut.
could sell it to people, and they would give you a little
Yeah.
a little kickback, which was cool.
It's bullshit too because New York is the state that constantly
Mm-hmm.
it's illegal if you want to do it now, but they keep trying to pass a law where all of us would have to have it. If you're
Right.
a gun owner, you have to have it.
Well, yeah, but the thing is
How would they enforce that?
well, first of all, they're
I
going to
guess
have
through
to
the county clerks,
identify.
right? Yeah.
First of all, they're going to have to identify all the insurance companies that would actually be authorized
Who
to
would do
offer
it,
you some
right.
sort of indemnity insurance, and then they would have to make sure that the government was getting a healthy kickback. So it'd be a lengthy
it'd
process.
have to be how you certify your pistol permit. Every year, you'd have to file either with the clerks or with the troopers.
Well, and the insurance
that,
company would have
you
to send
have-
some guy to your
Yeah.
house to make sure you're storing your guns correctly.
you stop paying your insurance, are they gonna your permit suspended,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
a car? You know what I mean? If you don't pay your car insurance, right?
I don't know, man.
Um,
Anything they can do to get more people in your business.
Yeah.
Todd was asking specifically for Pat. I don't know if you have any direct experience with this, but he said he's building a 45 ACP upright and clarified four-pack.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
He would have to change the buffer weight. That's his question,
100%.
but probably just have to do a little bit more research. I don't know if you have much 45.
I know I don't. I have no idea what the I've been good with 45 450 Beowulf or whatever, but yeah, no, honestly, I don't know that much about 45 ACP. I do happen to have a buffer that is definitely for a pistol caliber carbine, and it is very heavy. So you're welcome to have. I have literally no use for it, Todd. It will fit in a standard like carbine buffer, and you're welcome to it as like just to add into your little experimentation if you would like it.
I would rather put a tourniquet around my neck
Uh-huh.
and crank it down
Then shoot a 45 ACP.
than shoot a 45 AC. No, Tom, I'm kidding. Just buy
Is
a
that what you were
JRC.
gonna say, or
Yeah. No, yeah. And like auto asphyxiate myself. Like right before I pass out, I'll release it and
I don't know.
shoot a 45.
I can't
Just
really
buy a JRC. Buy a JRC in 45, right? I don't think I've ever seen, although I know Todd likes being a snowflake, so I've never seen a 45 ACP AR.
Onslaught.
Nobody else?
Doesn't
Do they?
Onslaught arms make one?
Onslaught, the
LWRC probably makes
the
one.
ASW
Yeah.
survival rifle,
Okay.
Ruger
So a lot of
PC
people-
carbine that's now coming out.
No, they're out there. They're more, I would say, of a
Marlin
build
Camp
your
rifle.
own sort of proposition. But
Yeah.
there are a lot of parts out there for
But a
them.
true like AR-15, that's a rare, I guess. You don't see a ton of those. Where someone built one.
No.
Like there are companies that make them. Yeah.
Yeah.
ASW,
Do it.
ASW just announced
Do it.
their rifles to take 19.
Yeah, I think if I was
Yeah.
going to do it, I would do it in 10, unless you just have like
Yeah. What do you use it for?
a
magazines?
shitload of
Mags?
1911 or
That's what you
45
have to,
ammo
yeah.
laying around.
Or
Which I,
1911.
A
get.
Smith M&P mag.
Do it, Todd. Cerakote it pink. You won't.
I could show you a picture of the gun that I use in Sniper Elite 5 on, which is pink from whatever paint job.
Oh,
Andrew was asking any recommendations on dry fire trainers.
Dry fire trainers. The Mantis is probably the one. It's definitely the one I'm most familiar with.
Cool
And
fire.
it probably has like the deepest suite of options as far as like the software and stuff that supports it, right? Because when you get the Mantis X10 program specifically, you have a lot of different stuff built into that software and the app that you can really kind of progress in your training. The one thing I always say about the Mantis that I love is when you do just the draw practice for dry fire, you get the beep like you would get from a normal shot timer. But then from the time that the timer goes off until you actually break the shot and the gun stops moving after, it breaks down every segment of that whole exchange. So it breaks down the time it took you to get your initial contact on the gun, the time it took for the gun to come to the level position, the time it took for the gun to stop moving on the presentation,
yeah.
the time it took for you to press the trigger. Everything is laid out for you, so you can really start to understand like, where am I succeeding in being efficient in my
Yeah.
draw, and where am I failing, and
That's cool.
where am I taking like too much time.
Yeah.
And so you can set like specific goals. Like one of the specific goals that I always had was, hey, when I make my initial contact with the gun, I need that to happen in under 0.2, like 3 or 0.24 seconds. And the reason is because if it happens like after that, it means that I'm waiting until after the beep. So like instead of going on the B of beep, I'm going on the P of beep.
No, sure.
So that's
Yeah,
like that's like a substantial chunk of time that you're losing because you're
The whole
not
eat.
reacting.
Yeah.
Right. There's no eat in there. So you're missing out on the whole. So yeah, I'd say the Mantis, if you're looking to get like way in the weeds on some of the dry fire training and really hone some shit, I would say that the Mantis probably is the one that gives you like the most options.
Cool.
But even just if you got like a pink Rhino laser like cartridge, even that is not without use.
And together they're even better.
I definitely recommend using them together. I think together makes a hell of a lot of sense, and I really got a big. And then I even used it on the smokeless range too, because then you had the laser with the smokeless range, so that was pretty neat. Brandon, I don't know if I told you, but I got with Tyler yesterday, and he's going to put some of the first line defense classes, open enrollment classes, on the Gear Fire.
Hell
So I'm not
yes.
sure exactly where we're at in that process, but here within the next like day or two, I think we should have links to a bunch of first line defense open enrollment training classes. So starting 27 April is the first pistol fundamentals class. There's going to be 2 pistol fundamentals, 2 concealed pistol, a carbine mechanics, a carbine fundamentals, and in October we haven't listed it yet, but there's going to be a low light pistol class as well.
Nice. That's awesome.
So once it starts getting dark a little bit earlier, we'll go to the range in like the afternoon, and we'll do some shooting up until dark, and then after it gets dark, we'll do a little bit more stuff, and then we'll take it from there.
We gotta get some like videos filmed and get Fredo to put out some like, hey, this is a sample of what you're gonna learn in this class. Here's a sample of
I agree.
what we're talking about in this class.
Yeah,
Because,
I agree.
Training, I mean, there's no such thing as too much, and there's a lot of people we know because we've taught them. There are a lot of people now that are going to be new permit holders that, okay, the bare minimum to safely own this firearm, which means you don't know anything. You know what I mean? Like you really, that is the start of the journey. There are so many people who, I mean, I still believe there should be no law requiring a set amount of training unless the government is willing to do it for free,
right,
and often and readily available. I don't believe that there should be these mandates for training, but it's incumbent upon you to take as much training as you can, right? And yeah, I mean, this 18 hours that people are taking, sure, it's something. They're learning things. This is what the state has determined is the bare minimum of training, which I do think a lot of us take for granted. I mean, I grew up with firearms. I don't know if you grew up with firearms.
Yeah,
or not,
100%.
Like,
ever since I was real little.
there's a lot of that fundamental stuff that we take for granted. I guess that like if I had never owned one, touched one, seen one other than in Hollywood, you should have some of that. I won't say New York State was right in that regard, but like there's some value there, right?
I agree that training is like recommended. I think that training should start from like hopefully the home environment. Like for most people, that would be like my hope.
Yeah.
Right. Like my hope would be that 80 to 90% of people are getting trained up on firearms safe storage and firearm safe usage, and definitely some shooting, but maybe even some actual like useful training in like a home environment. Now, that's not realistic for a lot of people, unfortunately. So I agree that like it's good in a sense that people are being encouraged to get some training. I don't necessarily agree that the state should mandate it, because when the state starts mandating things, then they can start picking winners and losers.
Right. Yeah, I don't like it.
Now they're trying to like get rid of NRA instructors potentially as like an avenue for people to get their permits. I don't know exactly where they're at in that process, but it's been mentioned already.
Yeah.
And so the problem there is like there's already a bottleneck, and we've seen it for people that want to get training but can't, whether it's for a financial reason or whether it's for a lack of resources reason in like regard to who is able to do the training or where they can go. So, by creating more of a bottleneck, obviously that's a bigger problem. But even so, even like in the sense of like the state mandating something outside of picking winners and losers, now they can also start to say like how much of the training you should get. And in this case, like the amount of training that they want you to get and the different stuff that they want you to learn is not necessarily the direction that I would have gone as somebody that's been teaching this for a long time. Right?
If you had to write 18 hours, okay.
I could think of some better
18
uses of that
is
time than on cleaning, right? Like instead of how to clean your firearm, which is in your owner's manual for any firearm, and a lot of reputable places will offer that to you almost for free or very low cost. I would say, what if we learned how to like stop the bleed? Like there are places where that's like part of their curriculum.
Could you,
And I think that that's important.
could you imagine having to learn how to wash a car to get your driver's license?
Right.
It's kind of
Like,
the same. You know what I mean?
what
Like,
sense
how does
does
that
that make?
matter? Yeah.
Yeah, is that
Yeah.
important? So yeah, I think that there's ways that they could have definitely made it like more palatable to people
Right.
that like actually, care about the level that people are trained to. Because I don't want a bunch of people who are liabilities to
Right.
everybody.
So
carrying
that's
guns.
a great reason to take one of Pat's classes. Is you could be someone who just got their permit. You could be someone who's had their permit for a year, 5 years, 10, 20 years, or whatever. You will learn something from showing up to one of these classes. You'll learn something generally from any class, but specifically, obviously, to brag, Pat's classes, they're very informative. You will get great feedback. I am not a good instructor in this regard, in the sense that, like, okay, I'm going to tell you whatever the lesson is. We're going to talk about grip and breath control and whatever, right? And you're going to shoot your target, and then I will see how you did.
You'll look at
and
the
then I'll
target.
be like, okay, well, you didn't do it as good as you could have, so just try to do it better, right?
I'm not going to give you a gold star. I'll give you the little
like,
blue star.
You did your best. The Cub Scout motto, right? Do your best and just do better, right? Whereas you are like, okay, well, because you hit in the left quadrant at this angle, you were gripping too hard by 30% with your, not that you like overcomplicate it, but you can precisely diagnose because you just have way more experience. I can teach from the 101 level stuff.
Right.
You're the 400, you're the 500 level master's classes.
Well, the
where
other
you can,
misconception, see, there's a little misconception creeping in there that we could talk about here. And that is like, if you were going to look at the target is going to tell you a little piece of the information.
Sure.
But most of what you need to see is actually happening in the hands of the shooter where the gun actually is, right?
Mhm.
Or it's happening behind the gun
Sure.
with something that the shooter's doing with body positioning or right,
Sure.
where their eyes are looking or whatever. But like, that's one of the misconceptions, I think, is like, people assume that a good instructor is going to be able to analyze something from a piece of paper.
Sure.
A piece of paper doesn't tell me that much about what you were actually physically doing.
Sure.
Right. So it's better for me to watch you as an individual person. It's the same thing when you come to a class. If I'm doing a demo, I'm not telling you, okay, watch the target, and that's going to tell you everything that you need to know about how I shoot that might be different from how you shoot. Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you, we'll talk about the target after.
Right.
Right. I don't care about the target. Watch the shooter, not the target. That's always what I say before I do a demo. Watch the shooter, not the target. Watch the shooter, not the target. Because the target tells you a little, but the shooter tells you more.
You like shooting on steel for that reason? Or
I
you
like
still use
shooting
paper and like cardboard and stuff?
It depends on what we're doing, right?
Sure.
Like, sometimes I think that steel is more useful because we're not trying to shoot bullseye. So I don't need a BA pistol target, right?
Yeah.
It's either on there or it's not. And that's like the exercise is the target is defined by the exercise, right?
Uh-huh.
Like, whatever we're trying to accomplish, I try to accommodate that with the target. But to your point, I do like to mix it up in a class because I don't only want to shoot B8 pistol targets because they're for a specific thing or they're for specific things that I like to use them for. But I also want to shoot on paper. I like to shoot silhouette targets because a lot of the stuff that I'm moving into now, because of the competition side, is I'm moving more into like hit factor type of scoring, which hit factor scoring is more based on like points per second, right?
Sure.
So like if you shot 2 A zones on that target, it's going to be worth 10 points. Whereas if you shoot 2 D zones on that target, it's going to be worth 2 points. And the time we'll divide the points by the time, and that'll give us the hit factor, right? So that will tell us, like, are you as accurate as you need to be at that speed?
Sure.
Right? Or are you kind of outrunning your headlights or whatever? So it depends on, what we're trying to learn.
Cool. I love it. Sign up for Pat's classes. Learn more.
Please come out to a class. We're going to have them linked up pretty soon. Yeah, definitely come out and get your learn on. It should be a good time. We'll have more classes up maybe later on, depending on how it goes with the indoor range and everything else. We'll see if maybe later on down the line, there's more opportunities to open up to train.
I love it.
So,
We got any other questions over there? It's getting late.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's
I'm
get out
surprised
of
we're
here.
not getting throttled to death right now.
For real. All right.
Been
Goodbye.
Almost 2 years.